Hey there folks, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an impression on The Flock. It's developed by VocalSap and it's on sale on Steam at the regular price around $17 USD. Now The Flock certainly comes with a very interesting hook. It's definitely something that grabbed my attention, and I believe a lot of people's attention, in that after a certain point this game will be unavailable for sale, and after a point after that this game will go offline forever and essentially become unplayable. Right, so definitely something new, something different, and if not anything else, I think kind of risky, right? We'll definitely talk more about that when we get into the game, but let me describe how that works. So right here we're looking at something called the population, right? There's over 200 million right now. This is not how many players are playing online currently, alright? Rather, this represents how many lives are available for players to play with, essentially. And that's every time a player dies, the population count will tick down, and you'll see that happening in, there we go, in live time right there. And once the population reaches 0, the game will be unavailable for sale, as mentioned before. It'll enter into something they call the finale, right? Now, after the finale, whatever that might be, we just don't know right now because the population is still quite high, but whatever that might be, that'll end, and this game will be offline forever, unavailable for play. So it's definitely something different and something kind of interesting, and we'll definitely talk about how that affects the gameplay, if at all, when we actually jump into the game. Now, before we actually do that, I do want to mention that this game does suffer from some technical hitches. So that's going to be my first critique. Has some technical issues, to say the least. Like for right now, even though you might be watching this on full screen, I'm actually playing this game in window mode, and there's no way for me to turn it back on full screen that I know of, right? So I go into graphics, and I go to full screen. Right now it says off. I go on, it says string not found, indicating that there's something wrong. I hit apply, and I'm still in window mode. I have no idea why. I was just kind of playing around with the settings, optimizing the game and all that stuff, and wasn't able to set it back on full screen. So I'm stuck on window mode forever, I guess. So that's one technical hitch. But this game is also prone to crashing as well. Now, luckily for the game, it generally doesn't crash mid-game. When it does crash is when I Alt-Tab, or when the game finishes and sends us back into the lobby. That's generally when it'll crash. I've also experienced other technical hitches, such as the goal of the game, as in the lights not spawning in, or in the lobby, the countdown not counting down and the match never starting. So before I even start, that's going to be my first critique, in that the Flock suffers from technical problems, right? So do be aware of that if you are interested in this game. But for the time being, let's just jump into the game so we can explore what it's all about. Let's go into quick match. It is an online-only game. It is best played with at least 3 players. It is a asymmetrical competitive game. Currently, and I believe maybe even forever, I'm not sure if they'll update this, but there is only 3 maps available to play. There is the slums, the temple, or the cave. I'm going to vote for the temple. And it's going to start right now. Excellent. So it does kind of lack in map variety a little bit, but let's just jump into the game. It's loading in right now. Alright, awesome. So we're in the game. We are currently the Flock. So at the initial start of the game, everyone starts as the Flock, and the goal is to find the light, which is spawning in right now. And you basically can win the game or achieve victory in this game through carrying the lights, which spawn right in front of us. How convenient. And when we get the light, we become the carrier, no longer the Flock, right? As the Flock, where we have more mobility and certain special abilities, which we'll explore once we become the Flock again. But as the carrier, we don't have as much mobility. We can't even jump, in fact. However, we do have this little light thing, and you can actually charge it up. It is kind of battery powered, if you will, through... Oh god, we just got jumped by a Flock. But it is battery powered, and it is charged with moving, right? So it does encourage mobility and discourages camping when you're the carrier. So there you go. So we got someone else as the carrier right now. He's gaining points, we're not. So we're going to spawn in as the Flock and try to get that light. Here we go. Now that we're the Flock, let's explore some of the stuff that we can do as the Flock. As you can see, we can run faster, we can jump higher, we can also hit E on the keyboard, and that will produce a decoy. We can even teleport back to our decoy by pressing E again, and that'll also create a new decoy. We can also hit Q. That'll give a big bellowing scream, and if the carrier's near us, we can actually interrupt his vision a little bit, but more importantly, it will buff any other flock around us, making them a little bit faster, making them jump a little bit higher. But currently our goal is to get the light, which is up there, which is quite clearly indicated. The light is quite bright and generally pretty easy to follow. Now as the flock, if he shines the light on us, we will die, we will burn, and we will lose a life, and the global population will go down. We can protect ourselves through standing completely still. We become petrified, right? We become a gargoyle, essentially, making us immune to the light. However, obviously, comes with a mobility cost in that we can't move any longer. So the general strategy is to be kind of sneaky and kind of ambush the carrier when he's not looking. Otherwise, he will burn us with the light. So we got another buddy here trying to get the carrier, and he's trying to get away from us. Did we get him? All right, we actually got him. Now, we do know that there's another host, or not host. Oh god, he got us. Oh my, apparently we're playing really bad. This is a good game though, because there's actually a fair amount of players playing right now. There's 4 players. Great. And like I said, it is best play with more than one-on-one, right? It is designed for asymmetry. So the game kind of plays sort of like a glorified game of hide and seek a little bit. But probably closer resembling to something like Juggernaut that you'll find in, I don't know, Call of Duty or Gears of War or something like that, right? So it's very closely resembling other asymmetrical kind of competitive games, but you know, with less guns, more stealth. I would definitely say this is a very stealth-oriented kind of competitive online game for sure. And yeah, the graphics are pretty good too, right? And I don't know why we can't spawn in. There we go. Now we're spawning in. Excellent. Okay, that was a weird spawn in, but whatever. But anyway, so as the flock, let's just try and get the light again. Alright, let's see. He's over here. So let's talk about the graphics a little bit while we're trying to get the light here. It's actually a pretty good idea to kind of stand still, pretend to be a statue, and jump at him because he didn't notice us. Excellent, so now we're the carrier. We'll talk about the graphics in a little bit. I kind of want to talk about what you do as the carrier. So right here is an objective. We can gain a lot of points through shining the light on the objective. Eventually the objective will disappear and we will gain that point. But that will come with a risk because we have to aim the lights on the objective, and also generally speaking we're not moving very much, and that will decrease the charge on the lights. But as you can see, we got jumped again, so we didn't manage to get the objective. We didn't manage to get the points, unfortunately. But yeah, that's generally the mechanics of this game. You know, like I said, it's very stealth oriented. There's a lot of ambush tactics and all that kind of stuff. And playing as the carrier, it's really all about micromanaging where you shine the lights and how you use the light, essentially, right? That's going to be your biggest defensive tool to your arsenal. But yeah, let's talk about the graphics a little bit. So it's actually a pretty good looking game, as you can see, right? It got some pretty interesting design as far as environment design is concerned. It got these really interesting formations, you know, statues, and the environment is interesting. It's moody, it's atmospheric, you know, has nice snow particle effects in some of the levels, as we can clearly see. The music and the sound effects and all that kind of stuff is very appropriate and very airy and atmospheric to the game itself. Here's the carrier, see if we can get him, and we did. Excellent. So yeah, as far as presentation is concerned, I don't really have a lot of complaints. I really like the way the game looks and the way the game sounds overall, and the textures are actually pretty good as well, unless you get really close to it. It gets a little bit blurry, but whatever. Oh, we just found one. He was about to jump us. Let's see if we can get away from him. Keep the light on him. Oh, it's a good idea to kind of decoy him as well, make him think he can jump at you, and then shine the light at him and burn him, essentially, right? But you can gain points as the carrier through just holding on to it, right? This is a little bit slower than trying to achieve the objectives, but you still can do it, and carrying the lights for a certain amount of time also adds to your final score as well. So yeah, this is kind of a cat and mouse game, essentially. Oh god, where is he? There he is. Oh, we got one. Excellent. So you got a little bit too brave, a little too close, and we were able to burn him, and that guy got us, unfortunately. Alright. So that's generally how you play the game. That's the premise of the game, right? So, is it any good? That's really the question. Well, to be honest, it's not a bad game. At least the first couple hours that I got into this game, I actually quite enjoyed it the first couple hours. But the problem here is that the Flock doesn't feature any other game modes other than what we're playing right now. This sort of cat and mouse juggernaut game mode, right? And that's kind of an issue, especially considering that this game only has 3 maps, right? The game gets very, very repetitive, very, very quickly, and that is going to really affect the whole legitimacy and the merits of this game having a permanent, basically, end, right? Like, the whole idea is to have the players feel a connection to the game, to be more careful in how they play, because you die too much, the game will go offline forever, you will never be able to play it. But because of the repetition, because I feel like most players will get bored of it before the countdown gets to any kind of threatening level, as in like lower than 1 million deaths, right? It's not going to have that sense of immediacy that the developer is going for. I mean, with 200 million lives available, I feel absolutely no immediacy to protect the lives that's available in this game. Because I feel like I'm probably going to get bored and done with this game before it even gets down to the 1 million mark. Right? So that's kind of going against the whole premise of this game. So also, we came last place. We did absolutely horrible. The game just ended. So yeah, because of its repetition, because of its lack of variety, and lack of... Let's just play another one here, Slums. And lack of immediacy for the player. Like, there's no sense of connection or purpose to this game other than just playing the game, right? It doesn't even keep your record of what you've done in this game. And for a game that's supposed to be so permanent in its end, you would think that it would at least keep track of the players' doings, how many deaths they contributed to the final population, how many kills they've completed, how many wins or losses they've had. At least that will give some small sense of purpose to this game for the player to kind of achieve or whatnot. But it doesn't even have that. So the game lacks a sense of purpose, it lacks a sense of immediacy, and there's a serious disconnect of the population and the gameplay. As in, the population counts doesn't add anything to the gameplay at all. And because the population count is so high in its current form right now, to be fair, it is still pretty new in its release, but still, I feel no immediacy to actually take care of the global population. I don't care if I die, I don't care if other people die. I don't care that this game is going to end eventually, because I'm probably going to be bored of this game way before that happens. And it doesn't add anything to the gameplay, right? So, combine that with the technical hitches that I've already kind of talked about. The crashes and the game sometimes not starting properly and all that stuff. Along with the lack of variety, with only 3 maps and 1 game mode ever, there's no connection to the permanency of this game and the player's willingness to continue playing, right? It doesn't add to the player's incentive to keep playing. And that's really unfortunate, because that's really the main hook of the game. This is really just a gimmick, unfortunately. That's kind of how I feel. This is just sort of a marketing ploy to get people to buy the game before it disappears forever, quote unquote. But to be honest, I don't think this game will ever disappear forever anytime soon. Because I honestly feel that most of the player base will probably get bored of it before that sense of immediacy becomes apparent, right? I am curious to know what the finale of this game will be. But obviously we can't tell that without the population going down a little bit further. But yeah, so it definitely has some issues, for sure. It definitely has some issues. Mainly a disconnect from the purpose of this game, the incentive of playing this game, to the permanent deletion of this game. There's no connection to that. It's just there. You know, it doesn't add to the gameplay. It's not really a part of the mechanic. In fact, this entire game, the premise of this game, the mechanics of this game, would be completely unaffected if the gimmick of permanent deletion wasn't there at all. Right? Now, I did read some of the thoughts from the developers on why they decided on the permanent deletion premise. One is to add a sense of immediacy to the player, which I think this game has failed to do. But also because they've noticed that a lot of indie games, especially multiplayer indie games, after a certain point in its release, players generally kind of stop playing and becomes kind of an empty wasteland, right? Which is kind of true, and it is a common critique I give to multiplayer indie games when I do impressions on multiplayer indie games. But even with that said, have this permanent deletion thing as part of the mechanics, which it just isn't, right? It just isn't. It's just a gimmick, and that's, I feel, very, very unfortunate. So, unfortunately, I do feel like the flock is kind of repetitive, and it doesn't really play with this premise of permanent deletion all that well. It's just sort of a selling point, a gimmick, if you will, to get people interested, which is really unfortunate because I think the flock has kind of a interesting base, right? I think the foundation of this game is actually quite solid for the most part. This game mode is actually quite enjoyable the first hour or two that I jumped into it, but at this point, I'm about 4 hours in, I'm bored of it. I'm probably never going to play this ever again until it reaches its finale, and after this impression, right? And yeah, that's really unfortunate. You know, all it really needed was some variety. It needed incentive for the player to keep playing, to protect the lives of the global population, but there is no incentive when most players know they're probably going to get bored of this before it ever reaches any kind of danger points where the population becomes so low where the player actually feels that sense of immediacy. But I just don't feel that is going to happen in this game. The lack of variety, the lack of maps, game modes, the lack of purpose, and the disconnect of the permanent deletion from the mechanics does not help the game whatsoever. And the game does feel incomplete with its technical hitches that I've already mentioned, the lack of variety and content. I almost feel like this game should be in early access. In fact, I would probably be a lot more forgiving on this game if it was in early access. I would understand that it's still under development and more things are to come. But this is not an early access game. This is a complete product, right? And that is an issue. So the game does feel a little bit incomplete. It feels monotonous. And again, I've already mentioned this a good few times, but I'll say it again to emphasize it. There is an absolute disconnect from the core mechanics of this game and the permanent deletion premise of this game. And that is not a good thing, considering that the permanent deletion of this game is the main selling points of the flock. It is the main element that will grab a lot of people's attention. And unfortunately, that is simply a gimmick. And at worst, a marketing ploy, right? So unfortunately, I can't really honestly recommend the flock. And that kind of sucks because at first, I really enjoyed it. I thought this asymmetrical kind of juggernaut / hide and seek kind of gameplay is very, very interesting. But it becomes just repetitive after a little while. And I'm pretty much done with this game once I'm done with this impression. So yeah, so that's basically the flock. Yeah, not the greatest. A little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. Hopefully you folks found this informative. Hopefully you guys found this enjoyable. And if you did, you know, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comments. If you haven't already, subscribe. I'll bring you lots more videos just like this. Oh, actually, before I leave, let me quickly go over the settings, right? So, okay, the game's about to end, so. Okay, we came in second. Very good. Let's exit this and go into settings. So this is the controls. It does support Xbox gamepad, although I never used it. I just use keyboard and mouse. And this is the available options. It doesn't look like there is... oh yeah, you can adjust the control scheme right here. There's not a lot of controls, so it's all listed right there. So let's go back here. Graphics, You know, I don't even know if these actually work, to be honest. I kind of played around with this and nothing really changed, so that kind of goes back to some of the technical hitches I was talking about. Some audio options here, usual suspect. Tutorial and language options. So that's basically it. No special features, which definitely adds to the monotony of the flock, which is a bit unfortunate. But that's basically it. So everything I just said a few minutes ago about subscribing and liking and commenting, all that stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone. Alder shoutouts.